All right, so the first one, and I'm excited because I haven't talked to, I'm in South Louisiana, so it's whitetails, turkeys, hogs. That's it. So I'm excited to hear some of these. So with your travels and experience, the first questions, can you tell us about a specific moment or experience from this past season or just anything recently that's particularly memorable? It could be, the animal or the experience or whatever.
Absolutely. So I mean, I had a very successful season. I was very lucky this year. I mentioned earlier I do a lot of western big game hunting, but I mean this season I was fortunate enough. Early season I went up north. I got a record book stone sheep, which was a phenomenal one, and did it unguided, like solo hunt,
Wow.
which turned out really well. I got myself my first mountain caribou up in northern BC, so right on the Yukon border. I pulled 3 wolves out of the area as well on that hunt. So that was a big hunt. And then, I had a lot of success outside of that throughout the year. But then I came back home, and being a BC boy, I've always had a huge passion for coastal blacktail hunting. That's what I grew up hunting and something I always love to do, but I don't get a lot of time to do it these days because I'm always on the road. But this year I put a lot of time. I went in early, put up a lot of cameras, and then went on all my other big trips. And I came home and I had found a true, like, old, regressive, like monarch blacktail buck.
Nice.
And I found them in some nasty country. And throughout the season, even with my busy schedule, I was able to get in just enough times and check his patterns. And I set up, and that was the last hunt of the season. So after I had finished a lot of my filming and getting everything completed, I got back in and set up. And I was able to connect, and it was a wild morning, but everything played out perfectly. And I actually planned his route, and everything came out together well enough. I went in, I set up in a new spot that morning, and I had him at 12 yards.
Nice.
So to get this monster blacktail at 12 yards and have him come right in, that was a pretty special moment for me.
That's awesome. So what is a monster blacktail? We don't have any in Louisiana.
Yeah, so a blacktail is like kind of a subspecies of a mule deer,
Right.
and the Columbia blacktail is kind of a part way between like a mule deer and a Sitka blacktail. So they're really cagey, kind of dark orange horned, kind of similar to a Sitka. But the Columbia, they're just a coastal deer. They just have really dark features.
Okay.
And they live in some really nasty, thick country, like coastal bluffs, mossy trees, old growth. It's a lot of wet, nasty days. The worse the weather, the better the deer are moving. So you want to be out in that gross weather. They're not a fair weather deer by any chance. But like their headgear's not huge. So this buck, he was probably, I haven't had him scored yet, but he's right around the 120s.
Nice.
But like just mass, and then like I say, he's regressive, so you can see he's past his prime. So as the blacktails start getting past their prime, their horns get a little witch fingered. So you can imagine someone who's got those arthritic fingers, they get those little nodules and knobs through it all. So he's starting to pull back. You can tell he used to be a nice big 4x4, but he had pulled back, and he's more of a 4x3 on the one on the front. Split didn't quite come out, but just a big, heavy body, just the way he walked and postured. You can tell he's got a lot of scars. He had a ton of scars on his face from fighting, and just an old mature deer.
That's awesome. Very cool. How long have you been hunting?
I've been hunting since my father first started taking me out hunting when I was about 4 years old.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so a little while.
So what is the biggest change then between the way you hunted with your dad as a 4-year-old and what you see now? And that can be, the way you hunt, the technology available. What's something that you've really seen that's changed?
The way I hunted is, when I first started hunting with my father, like I mentioned, I was 4 years old. I don't remember those days very much, but I remember the whole process growing up. And I went from hunting in hand-me-down logging clothes. My first rifle was an old 308 lever action with a straight 4 Bushnell on it, and no binos, no cameras, no nothing. Like it was just bare bones hand-me-down logging clothes. Go out, hunt, put meat on the table. And then over the years, obviously technology has completely developed and advanced over the years. I mean, every aspect in what I do. Now my e-scouting, my planning is a big part. I pre-plan for a lot of my hunts, so I can go and I map out areas. I find key like geographical pinch points. That's where I can set up cameras. So the scouting potential, I think, has changed a lot. And I think for me, that's allowed me to be a much more selective hunter. So growing up, we used to be quote unquote meat hunters, but it's because we never really understood what kind of deer were in the area. Especially growing up blacktail hunting, they're a very elusive deer. and it's thick vegetation, so you're not going to get eyes on them very often. So, you know, if you saw a little 2-point, you shot it because that was your opportunity. You might not see another deer, but you never knew if that was the biggest deer in the area or not. Whereas now you can put systems in place, put cameras in place, and get an idea of what genetics are in the area, what deer are in the area, understand if that's where you want to focus or if you want to find a new area, and make sure that you're pulling some of those oldest genetics out of the area, giving those younger deer a chance. So, yeah, I guess one of the biggest changes is just my ability to be selective and kind of harvest those more mature deer when I'm out there. And yeah.
Is your dad still around to see how you're hunting now? And
No, unfortunately not. My father passed, going back eight years ago or more now. But yeah, unfortunately, can't take him out on any of these trips. But actually, I have a custom knife made. My friend made it, and it's got my father's ashes in it.
That's awesome.
So, and it's got some rounds that were fired through his gun. That's what his ashes are embedded in. So it's like he's not with me, but he's with me. So we still get to go out, and like I mentioned, the blacktail hunting especially that's what we always did growing up. So those hunts are still very much, you know, me and my dad getting out in the bush and having some fun.
That's awesome. That's you know, my kind of same with me with my grandpa. I was raised with my grandparents. He passed. It's been a little more than 10 years, but it's like the hunting and fishing thing. You know, they're like
It's a timeless bond.
It is.
And no matter what, whether they're with you or not, you still look back on all those moments while you're in the field doing it all.
Yeah. Were those day hunts mostly that you went on with your dad? You'd wake up early in the morning. Did y'all drive somewhere? And
it was a healthy mix. Probably, I think it was until about 9 or 10. It would be a lot of day hunts, and probably just frustrating days in the field for my dad and getting sick and tired of being with us. But then once we got, it was kind of like our coming of age thing. Once we got to a certain age and we could go in the field and not drive my dad nuts on a hunt, he would say, "Okay, you're ready," and we'd go for a full weekend hunt. And then after we had done that one full weekend hunt with our dad, then, you know, if you did well enough on that trip, then we'd start planning longer and longer trips. So at first, everything was, you know, I even say day hunt, but I bet you half of the hunts at the younger ages were we were back in town within, you know, for lunch kind of thing.
Hunt,
but it's just kind of pushing the limits and getting out there and having fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's crazy how similar, you know, we're on opposite ends of the continent. You know, those things develop, and just the passing of down from dad or mentor, whoever it is, to
that heritage and tradition. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot of places around the world, and there's areas I've been where the people don't even speak the same language, completely different cultural backgrounds and everything, but if you have something like hunting as a common bond, you sit down, you have this, and it's the exact same conversation. In a lot of places, it's a timeless tradition. It's passed on from generation to generation. It kind of brings it all full circle, and it is one of those things where, I mean, we're here at SHOT Show right now, but a lot of the people here all have the exact same passion, and whether you guys are from, you know, different countries, I mean, technically, we're the same continent, so it doesn't feel like a different country, but then you talk about people from like completely different foreign countries, same kind of shared bond and shared stories there.
Yeah. So speaking of your travels to other countries and whatnot, how do you describe, or how would you describe the way that you live, the lifestyle of being that hunter to someone that's not a hunter or even against it?
Oof, that is a loaded question.
I told you no zingers.
That's a big question. How much time do we have? You guys, can we clear our schedules? You know, my lifestyle is very much centered around the outdoors where I'm at. Like, I've moved around quite a bit throughout my life, but I've always wanted to get back to where I am in BC. We live right on the coast, we're right on the ocean, we're right on the river systems, and we're in the mountains. So year-round, my lifestyle is centered and surrounded around being outdoors. So during the spring, I'm out on the ocean, we're fishing, we're crabbing, we're doing all of that stuff, spring bear hunting as well. Then once the weather starts changing, I'm getting out, I'm doing a lot of mushrooming, foraging. We garden, we grow our own vegetables, and then during hunting season, during the fall, there's still the tail end of mushrooming season, but then also the hunting aspect and things like that. So, you know, it's not just about going out and, you know, killing an animal and then, you know, not dealing with the meat and processing it all. Like, that's a big part. All the meat we eat at my house, or almost all the meat we eat at my house, is wild game meat. I have a 2-year-old son at home, and he can test different meat, and sometimes he guesses it right. Like, at that age already, he's eaten so much different meat, and it's a lifestyle. It's not just the other side of it. And I talked earlier about, you know, being selective and trying to harvest the most mature animal in an area, and quite often that means it's the biggest animal. But you're not pulling it out of there just because, oh, I just want the biggest headgear. But if you look at the body on again going back to blacktail, because we've been talking about a decent amount, the body on a mature blacktail versus a body on an immature like a spike or a 2-point blacktail, you're going to get almost, an extra third to, another 50% meat yield off of that animal. So it pays to be selective, go for those mature animals. So people that say, oh, you're just a trophy hunter because you go for the big animals, it's like, well, no, I want the most meat off of, I don't want to have to go through the same amount of work to pull a small deer off the mountain and then only get a few sandwiches out of it. I'm a big guy, I got to eat.
So do you have any big excursions planned this year? 'Cause it sounds like a lot of your trips are, not just sounds like a lot of them are explorations pretty much, it could be multi-weeks, sounds like. So do you have any of those planned, and are any of those newly drawn tags or tags that you've been waiting to earn enough points or something that's really coveted that, not the average Joe Plumber has had the opportunity to do?
Great questions. I do have some very big excursions planned. I mean, every year I probably do 2 to 3, 14 plus day excursions, like backcountry excursions in the mountains. But then this year also I'm going to be doing a 2-week hunt down in New Zealand. So that one's not, a tag that I've had to wait to draw, but that's one I've wanted to do for a really long time. So we're going to be going down to New Zealand and doing a stag hunt, and then going up and doing tar as well. Awesome. So that's going to be a really cool one. I mean, growing up as a kid, I've watched those hunts and always wanted to do it. So finally getting to go down and do that one this year, I'm really, really looking forward to that hunt. And then another big one I want to check off the box this year is archery mountain goat. So that's going to be another big hunt. There are areas in BC that the way our draw system works, it's full lottery in British Columbia, so you can't build priority points. So that one I put in draws for certain areas that I'm hoping I can get selected for certain hunts, but luckily in BC we have the option that if you don't get drawn in those areas, you just have to travel and hike a lot more. But you can still go out and do those hunts in different areas. So yeah, I've got quite a few big hunts planned, but nothing that's, any of those major draw points. I have started putting in for priority points in other areas, like other provinces and other countries, but I haven't been drawn yet. I'm not lucky enough for those ones.
Awesome. Just got invited on a hunt of a lifetime, whatever you want. And you can bring 5 pieces of gear only. Go.
Where are we going? I got to put it back on you.
Things that you can't go anywhere without, and ignore the weapon. Weapon is included. You've got your weapon and your ammunition and your tags.
Weapon, ammunition, and tags are in my
included.
pocket.
Yep.
And do I have boots?
All of the absolute essentials. So your clothes and your weapons and ammunition are included. What are the top 5 things you're going to bring?
That is tough. It's so, for me, I have such a vast, a wide range of hunting. But let's say if I'm setting up for British Columbia hunt, northern BC, some key things. I mean, I've got to have my messaging. So I'm going to have my Garmin inReach. That's going to come with me. A lot of the time I'm still going to bring, even if we're not scouting, I'm still going to bring a trail camera or 2 with me, because I have to have a trail camera set up around camp, know what's coming in and out of my area. So even if I don't get to pre-scout, that's coming with me. My Kestrel is something for my shooting that I've learned to become very reliant on. My father's knife, that's got to come with me 100%. And then what's number 5? I don't know what number 5 is.
3 seconds.
Come on, man, you're killing me. Well, you left it wide open by, you said, you have all the essentials. I don't even know. A good book.
There you go.
That's number 5.
All right. Yeah. What book are you reading right now?
What book am I? I've got audiobooks on the go right now. One of the good ones I'm reading right now is called The Last Child in the Woods, and it's just talking about how a lot of kids, the way they're being raised these days, they're being removed from the outdoors and that free play, so that creative side and that outlet that is important to kids. So that's a big one I'm reading right now.
Awesome. Which one of those are you most excited about using this upcoming season, and why?
For me, camera-wise, being based in British Columbia, and the fact that, I can use cell-capable cameras during the scouting season, but during season, when I'm really relying on my cameras, and when I'm in the field, other places, because I travel so much, I need something in the bush I can really rely on. So for me, I'm going to have to say the Force Pro S 2.0. That's the biggest one for me. Like last year, I relied heavily on the Force Pro. And the solar capability for me was a big surprise, was how well that worked. I ran some cameras all year without even putting a battery pack in them, and they worked perfectly. I did it just to test it out. I had some with batteries and some without, and I mentioned we're in a lot of mountains, so I'm hiking a lot, so you can imagine the battery weight. It can I don't mind hiking, but if I can save weight in my backpack, I'm gonna keep that out of there. And it's nice to have that reassurance. So some of my key cameras, I still put the battery packs in there, but knowing that that camera can operate if it's got a decent amount of sun exposure. It doesn't need 100% sun exposure, but a decent amount, knowing it can still operate for a full, hunting season in there. That's kind of my go-to year-round. But yeah, so that's definitely my big exciting one. And the fact that you guys have improved the features and then also reduced the price point, to me, so anytime something becomes more consumer friendly, that's exciting to me as well, because I'm in a fortunate position where this is what I do for a living, so it makes sense for me to invest in my gear so much, but for other people, for it to be, cost efficient and cost effective, I think that's awesome. Another feature about the Force Pro S 2.0 that's really got me excited is last year, my area I was hunting for my blacktail, it was about an hour drive from my house. Then I'd have to park my truck and hike for an hour and a half up into the mountains, steep country, to get to where I start checking my cameras. And on the old, the non 2.0s, there's no viewing screen on the inside, and I forgot my card reader. And I swear I could have sat and cried, because I went up there, I was so excited to pull my cards and check it all. And just at the start of my morning, everything was great. Checking off the boxes, reach in for my reader, and it's not there. So now having those viewing screens inside and not having to worry about that and rely for that reader, that's a big one. And then also just, the comfort of knowing if I do have somebody else go check those cameras for me while I'm gone, I don't have to worry about them, needing to go out and buy a reader or do that. I've got buddies that can check while I'm in the field somewhere else. So the reader, I think, is going to be a big development, a big change in there as well. And the fact that you can play the videos, not just check the pictures, but you can play the videos. That's pretty sweet.